Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, I got a confirmation. All right, thanks for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 352, Black Tech Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Hit the notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. If you want to join the panel and engage in the discussion and contribute, there'll be a link in the chat for you to join the panel. When you're in the waiting room, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you. Or else you'll be sitting there for quite some time. All right. I want to get to some of these questions that I was receiving the past few weeks. And wrench up artisan. And kind of focus on your questions rather than to go over through these articles, because I know a lot of people had some questions in the back chat and sent me some emails and some messages and text me on my phone. So I figured I would bring all the stuff to the center stage and kind of just engage this way. This everybody gets the same equal treatment, equal advice. All right. The link is in the chat, so if you want to jump on and ask your questions, you are welcome to do so. If you just want to type it in the chat, then go right ahead. That works too. But I think getting on the panel is probably a little bit more direct. All right, we got first person on the panel, Baraborn. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing? Hey, okay, 23 people. That's probably useful.
Yeah. You wanted to do this yesterday, but I think it was the wrong live stream to do it on. But tonight is Tech Talk, so I'll give you 5 minutes to go out there and do your 5-minute elevator pitch.
Okay. So the long and short of it is that it's a I'm a trained animator. Went to college for some the Art Institute, Los Angeles, California, for animation. I'm currently making a game that is meant to support Black businesses through a similar design setup as Pokemon Go. And I want to understand. So I've gone through like a program where you go and talk to entrepreneurs and get their feedback, and you create something that they particularly want. But, you know, I only got like let's say a couple handfuls of people, hardly like a large sample. So from a data perspective, I'd like the panel's opinion on something like that. I can give more information, but what's your initial thoughts?
It sounds interesting. I think you're in the very early stages of it, right?
I've done some coding, worked on some art. I am not a programmer, but I at least know where everything is kind of going. And I'm also kind of building a business as well, because it'll have to be a business. The way it's going to work in particular, the same way Pokemon Go got people out of the house, this game will get people out of the house, and your locations will be participating businesses, starting with Black-owned businesses. And there'll be like different kind of incentives and stuff like that, which would work with Black banks, let's say the 5 that still exist, and little things like that. So it's the niche, I'd say the niche not the fact that I'm trying to leverage the fact that there is so few Black alternatives to kind of narrow the focus.
Do you have like any examples that can be demonstrated?
I can. I, I did not know when this was going to start. It'll take me a minute to pop something up on the screen.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You can wait to the end of the hangout, or we could do it another night. But either way works. Because we do have other people who are waiting. So I just wanted to give you your 5 minutes to pitch that out there.
Okay, thanks. I'll see if I can get something together.
All right. See if anybody else wants to get on the panel. Interesting. We got a thumbs down already. Interesting. Hey, what's good to everybody in the chat, man? I didn't get a chance to acknowledge the chat. Yeah, if anybody wants to get on, man, this is open chat for Black Tech Talk. So now's the time to actually engage. I was hoping that the people who had emailed me would actually show up, which is what I was waiting on. Hey, Dion, congratulations, man. Congratulations. Kendra D, how are you doing, my dear? My lovely dear. Yeah, cool. Since nobody's going to get on right now, I'm going to go over this article about AWS in Azure. So let me share my screen real quick. All right, this one is from ZDNet. Microsoft Azure customers reporting in virtual machine limits in US East region. Microsoft is at capacity with some of its Azure resources in the East US2 region. Users are reporting, and Microsoft acknowledges it is placing restrictions on additional quota on some customers there. Starting a couple weeks ago, some Azure customers began reporting they were hitting virtual machine limits in Microsoft's cloud in the US East regions. Users users say Microsoft doesn't have enough of the server types needed to spin up certain types of VMs, especially in East US 2. Every cloud vendor sets limits on various services they offer customers. Microsoft has encouraged users to employ virtual machine reserve instances, especially in cases where they know ahead of time they will need to scale up. However, the current storage of Azure VM seems to be creating worries among customers bumping up against them. I first got wind of the issues with Azure virtual machine limits from Matt Burkett, who tweeted to me about the his own recent experience. He also pointed to a Reddit thread about capacity issues in East US 2 region. On October 31st, he tweeted his response from his support case on VM constraints, which stated, unfortunately, due to high demand for virtual machines in this region, we are not able to approve your quota request at this time. We are continuing to expedite additional capacity for the US East 2 region. The responder also asked whether Burkett is able to redirect his deployments to alternative regions, US West 2, and or start with a smaller number of cores. The thread on Reddit, which started a week ago, mentions the East US 2 capacity limits that some are hitting. One user said her computer company was told by their account manager it would take 4 or so months to get escalation on the issue. More recently, he said that the company fortunately got whitelisted, but it is a data center issue and they have over provision on every level. Their stance is we aren't sure how we got here. So I don't want to read this whole thing because I think it's important for people to understand this cloud computing game is really tough, and Microsoft is seeing the writing on the wall that they're running into capacity issues. This doesn't really happen on Amazon all that much, but that's how Amazon makes its money. They charge you an arm and a leg when you decide to scale up. You want to start off small, fine, but once you start adding once you start demanding resources on elasticity, that's where they start making their money, and that's why AWS is so profitable for them. Microsoft is starting to see the capacity issues for what it is, and it'd be one thing if they can accommodate it, but 3 or 4 months wait time, that's not good for any business. That is not good. Hey, what's going on, Albert Bird? What's going on, Richard Vic Dixon?
What's good, Mike?
Chilling, man. Let me just hit this next article and then we'll jump in.
Oh, sure, no problem.
We can chop up game. All right, this next one is from ZDNet again. Can AWS be caught? Here's how its cloud computing rivals can improve their chances. The dominance of Amazon Web Services in the global cloud infrastructure is still undisputed, but in a market where businesses' appetite for hybrid IT environments is growing, its competitors are getting stronger, and fast shows a recent report from Canalys. With 32.6% of the market share, the Amazon-owned cloud computing platform is still a long way ahead of its two main challenges. That's Microsoft Azure, which holds almost 17% of the market, and Google Cloud at almost 7%. But the devil is in the detail. When looking at the actual speed of the growth for each company, it seems that AWS is being outpaced. Since last year, the Amazon subsidiary grew 35%. That doesn't compare all that well to Microsoft, which grew 59%, and it is even worse when compared with Google Cloud, which grew 69% as such is described in the report as a front runner. Alastair Edwards, chief analyst at Canalys, told ZDNet, AWS is still growing phenomenally, and part of the reason it is slowing comes down to the law of big numbers, he said. But the fact that Microsoft has recently significantly strengthened its position is also a contributing factor. Only last week, AWS has lost a huge deal to Microsoft when the US Department of Defense awarded the latter a $10 billion, 10-year-long contract for its Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, JEDI. This means that Azure was designated to upgrade legacy systems with newer cloud services to support the DoD's business and mission operations until late 2029. Microsoft and Amazon had emerged as the two final bidders for the deal, and it was widely expected that AWS would triumph, perhaps because it is the same platform that the CIA sealed the deal with in 2013 when it began its journey to the cloud. It was noted at the same time that storing both the CIA and the DoD's data in the same cloud carried greater security risk. The fact that the US government shifted its strategy to spread risk across multiple providers is not an isolated event. It is reflective of a growing trend among enterprises, big and small, according to Canalys. And with businesses opting for multi-cloud solutions, the role of channel partners is increasingly gaining traction. Edwards explained that this is because although customers deploy more than one cloud solution, it rarely happens that all the platforms they use are seamlessly integrated with one another. Instead, users often end up stuck in a complex web of platforms and no internal resources to manage them efficiently. You have to define strategy for cloud deployment. Then you have to deploy it, manage it, secure it, and integrate it, said Edwards. All these roles are increasingly played by channel partners. Those partners, therefore, are as the intermediary that enterprises now rely on successfully to integrate cloud systems are an asset that cloud services should leverage to boost their growth. Cloud providers' ability to develop relationships with key channel partners is what will define success in the future, concluded the research. And Edwards noted that in this context, one of the Microsoft's core strengths is its very strong legacy of working with channel partners. Earlier this year, for example, Microsoft announced that it was teaming up with VMware in an effort to, in the company's own words, be open and flexible to help address a wider range of customers' needs. And efficient as Microsoft seems to be when it comes to managing an ecosystem of channel partners, however, Canalys analysts highlighted the successes of AWS, which they said still reflects that the company retains a firm lead in the market. Last year, for example, it announced a new product called AWS Outposts, due to hit the market by the end of the year of this year. That will let its customers run native AWS or VMware environments in integrated racks connected to Amazon's public cloud. The company, therefore, is bringing its cloud infrastructure on premises for the first time, a powerful weapon for partner attention, said the report. Its latest results show that it had almost $9 billion in sales in the third quarter of 2019. In that light, Edwards said that Microsoft's leap forward can't be interpreted as the company gaining a significant competitive advantage over Amazon. But in a market currently worth $27.5 billion and set to increase exponentially in the next few years, it can't hurt to have a challenger to the dominant player. I agree with the article. And I've talked with you guys about this many times before, because cloud, everybody's going cloud 2020. I don't care who you are, what company you are. You're gonna, if you are publicly traded, you will be in the cloud at some way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter who the company is and what industry they're in. They will have some form of cloud access at some point. Software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, functionality as a service, um, microservices, serverless computing, all of that stuff is going to take place in the cloud. And most companies by the end of 2020 will have some form of access to the cloud. This is why I tell you guys to be mindful of the changes in trajectory of the market, because when you have this sort of sudden shift, you don't want to get left behind. And then I tell a lot of black men this all the time: don't get caught with your pants down. Don't play catch up. Get ahead of the curve. So some of the a couple of the points that I want to bring up from the article is that they said that Microsoft has a long experience, a longer experience in having channel partners. I'm kind of paraphrasing it. This is true because Microsoft does have a gold partnership program that goes back 20 years. So a lot of those gold partners will be coming on board for Azure and will thus expand Microsoft's service offerings. So Amazon is going to run into that wall because Amazon doesn't have the same traction. So the way how I see it is, you don't have to work for Microsoft or Amazon. This is the time for you to create your own gold partnership with either Microsoft or Amazon or Oracle or Google. And then you have the clients come to you, and all you do is spin up the services at any one of those providers. Because it doesn't matter which provider it is, the demand is all going to be the same because the resources are available. So, you know, that's something to pay attention to. All right, we got Albert Bird on the panel. We got Cyberdyne. We got Richard Victor Dixon. What's going on, man?
It was good.
Chilling, man. Chilling, man.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Chill, man.
Greetings,
Microsoft
gentlemen.
Cloud game is no joke.
Greetings from the Batcave.
What's going on, man?
Microsoft Cloud game is no joke. Even Sony's starting to use some of their stuff for the next PlayStation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah, it's probably going to be cheaper. I know Microsoft was giving it away at some point. I don't know if they're still doing the same thing now, but at some point they were giving it away. You really couldn't knock it.
Hey, I got a question about the spinning up the servers. Because I haven't really looked at a lot into cloud. I've just been so focused so much on the actual coding, dealing with C#. But when I get to that point, once I'm finished with MVC and Entity, is that a learning curve with the cloud? That's just something that's already set up for me to just, you say, spin up the servers. But that's something I'm actually have to really, really dive into and learn.
I can answer that for him, Mike, if you want, if you like. Go ahead. I think somebody else might, but I can answer that for you.
No, go ahead.
So, matter of fact, tell me if my mute background. Give me a second. You know what? I'm disrespectful. Let me.
Yeah, you got a little bit of noise in the background.
Yeah. I got my hanging up new pictures in here. Let me kill my background music. All right, there we go. All right. So, no, if you're spinning up, if you're into MVC and ASP.NET 4, all that good stuff, basically spinning up a server is nothing more than just having, an available computing unit available to host just whatever it is that you plan to put on it. And so,
connection.
Exactly. And so, it used to be back in the day, what you would do, you would have a physical box with all the components, and you would dedicate that box for something. In this day and age, that server is virtualized. That server is now software that has its own resources, that has its own thing. And now, instead of you having a a physical computer that you go and plug into the wall. It's draining power, draining resources. That computer is managed by some company that has a bunch of more robust physical, computers or physical servers, and they have it in terms of little tiny virtual machines that basically emulate the physical computer. So it's not hard at all. As a fellow developer, along with you and everyone else out there that's like that, as well as a systems person, if you have the aptitude to understand model view controller, right, MVC, it's as simple as picking up a little book or watching a 10-minute YouTube video, having some Microsoft Windows server, or a Linux server, or even Mac OS or Mac X server software, learning how to do it and just getting it done. I mean, it's easy. You just need a license and the actual server software itself, if you're going to do that at home on a computer, or if you're going to go to some managed provider. But I would suggest doing it at home on a computer. That way you can build the server, you can destroy it, rebuild it, destroy it, and rebuild it until you're comfortable. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, I think his question is, what is the complexity of it, right? So how challenging is it? What's the learning curve?
Because the reason I asked that, because
let me just answer you real quick. So it's about 5 or 6 mouse clicks for you to spin up a server. So it's just a matter, you answer the questions that it's asking. How many resources do you need? What is your demand? And what's your credit card number so they can bill you? And
perfect.
That's about the extent of it. When you're finished with the instance, you want to shut it down, because you don't want them to keep billing you. I've seen companies get billed for $1 million and not really realize it, because they didn't pay attention to it.
Wow.
That's perfect. That was perfect. I appreciate that, yo. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, usually it's free, like maybe I think like a few hours or something like that. But it's like anything else, man. Just read the white papers, or read the read the book, man, because I can't stress enough, man. They got ebooks out there that's floating around. You can get. I got a couple from Udemy. I got a couple from Pearson. I bought. So even the Cloud Plus, you go to CompTIA, get the Cloud Plus. That would tell you everything you need to know about cloud as a primer. So, what's your question?
The reason I asked that, because I was seeing all these ebooks and bit books on cloud. I'm like, well, is this another like a huge learning curve? Because I'm actually getting to a point where I'm tired of learning all these frameworks. I'm actually getting to a point I really just wanted to get back out here.
What version of AS? What version of ASP.NET are you using?
I'm reading on MVC.
The model view controller.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading on right now.
Razor Pages.
Yeah, Razor. Yeah, I was just reading up on that. I actually got my book right here. It's
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I would advise you, Richard, man, is find what's comfortable for you, man. Stop trying to learn everything. Stop trying to consume everything, and find that one elephant that you can eat one bite at a time. Because once I don't know how much I know you went to Sub-Zero's camp and you completed that. I would just keep banging away at that, but I will also take into consideration, learning a little bit about Python. I don't know how much he's gone over that. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know the syntax, whether or not the line of code is wrong or it's right, and whether or not you can spot that, within 5 minutes.
Yeah, I also recommend ML.NET, which is a machine learning.
Yeah, I saw that. I was looking into that. I did.
Yeah, but because you're working more with are you using? Did he teach you MySQL, or what did he teach you? Oracle?
Nah, it was SQL Server.
Okay.
Because that the BI, because he was teaching everything basically, and that would be the reason I got into ASP.NET C# because I'm like, it would tie in with what he taught us. because it's all part of the same stack. You know, it's Microsoft stack.
Yeah,
Teaching
Microsoft
SQL
stack.
Server. He's teaching SQL Server, SSIS, and SSRS. That's the main. So business intelligence is his main focus. So.
Yeah, so I think you're in a good spot, man. Have you had any luck finding any work?
Nah, I haven't looked in a while. I stopped looking. Last time I was looking was the beginning of the year, but I'm actually finna start back looking.
Have you
right
joined,
after? Yeah, go ahead.
Have you joined any meetups?
Yeah, I actually went to. I was telling you in the chat. One of the I just went to the NASA Space App Hackathon the other week, and Dell Fest is on the 16th. I'm probably gonna go to that. So
where are you?
He's in Atlanta, I think.
No, I'm in Orlando.
Orlando.
Florida.
Oh, Florida. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a Orlando big data meetup. You might want to look at that as well.
Yeah, they have Secret Saturdays down here. I went to a couple of them when I was first looking.
Okay, dope.
But they so I got some people that's cool with me. I just I'm feeling good actually. I think this time when I start back looking, I think I'm especially with everything I know now, I think I'm gonna be all right. So.
Have you had your resume looked at? If you did your resume up, did your LinkedIn up?
Nah, I got the wait, that's where it gets a little tricky. But I definitely got to redo my resume, plus add in everything I know now, and go over my story. And it's a little tricky with all that.
Yeah, man. You know, we got Nagone, man. Nagone actually does recruiting and stuff like that, man. So if you need some advice on like your resume, what it should look like, you know, what a cover letter should look like, you know, he does IT recruiting himself. So
can I ask him a question?
Yeah, I actually want to holler at Nagone too. You know, I know everybody be busy though.
Yeah, I don't know where he is right now, but I see somebody has their hand up. Renaissance man.
Hey, how's everybody going? Doing tonight on the
panel? Doing all right.
Chilling, fam.
Yeah, I got a question. So I come from a finance accounting background. I was actually talking to a recruiter from Amazon a few weeks ago, and she was asking me about experience with SQL. My current role, the company I work for, we don't use it. But that got me thinking. I was talking to her. She was saying she thought, you know, if you got a certification, that could at least get you in the door somewhere. Yep. I want to know what y'all's thoughts on that was, and then just y'all's opinion on, with my background working in finance, what do you think the best move as far as to either strengthen that skill set, like bringing some tech into it, or moving into a tech role? How do I leverage where I am now?
You're already in finance, so you're already 50% of the way where you need to be to get into fintech, right? So
yeah,
I would look at blockchain. Lionel has done the EDX course, blockchain for business and cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
So you might want to hit him up. He passed that successfully with flying colors, man. So he's doing well, man. I think he's on to like his third or fourth, you know, or his second micro degree or something like that, man, from Udacity, I think, man. So he's cruising. He didn't know anything about programming 6 months ago. Now he's able to write some code. So
yeah, I'm seeing it in my company. Like they're talking about blockchain as far as like some of the solutions we're selling, being able to sell something in the customer, that being a way to, you know, get a royalty fee off that. So I definitely see that emerging. And like I said, I don't know as much about the languages, but I'm just trying to make sure, like you said, with automation and the cloud and all that coming, trying to make sure I don't get caught flat-footed.
Man, it depends on what your passion is, man. What's your passion? Is it you know, big data? Is it staying in finance?
Yeah, staying in finance, but definitely.
Yeah, I would recommend C#.
C#?
Yes.
Now, is that a coding language?
It's a coding language. It's a coding language, but I don't know how many platforms in terms of fintech actually use C#. Most of them are actually using either JavaScript or Python.
My bad.
Yeah, for writing into the blockchain, or C++ is what they use at the heavy level. So
it's some C# written on blockchain. I've been looking deeply into that.
I haven't seen any sort of evidence of that.
I haven't either.
Look into Stratus and the Neo blockchain.
Yeah, that might be from Microsoft. I know Microsoft has blockchain as a service now with their cloud service. So
Them the two biggest. Them the two biggest ones, and you can program on Bitcoin. It's a It's a dude that made. I got the library. It's on my laptop right now. I got Bitcoin on my laptop. You can program on Bitcoin with C#. It's a library called in Bitcoin.
Okay.
Really? I gotta check that out.
Yeah. I've heard of that, but I've never seen anybody actually use it. But yeah, I would definitely focus on the fintech side, man. Udacity has a great program that takes you from zero to 60, man, in 4 months. So.
Okay, what's the name of the one on Udacity?
Let me pull it up for you.
Okay.
Yeah, Python might be a little bit better for you now that I think about it.
Python is like the #1 language, so.
Yeah, C# tough. It's been a bitch.
Yeah, because that's all. Yeah, it's all specialized for certain platforms. So let me share my screen. All right. So we go to programs. We'll go to program development, blockchain. No, that's not it. Oh, okay. Here we go. Business. Let's go to program and development. Actually, you know what? Let me go back to EDX because I know.
Bruh, thank you for turning me on EDX. EDX is a gold mine, dog.
No problem, man. No
EDX,
problem.
I've been getting souped up on EDX.
Now, I was gonna say I've seen Coursera too, but they started charging looks like about $50 a month for a course. EDX free or what?
Yeah, EDX is free unless you want the certificate. If when you pass it, the certificate actually goes to your LinkedIn.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the course that Lionel took. Yeah.
I got like an EDX too. Okay.
Yeah, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. This is what sped Lionel up to where he is right now.
Okay.
So I'll drop that link in the chat for you guys. And who else is interested in that? Y'all definitely got to link up with Lionel because he has a blockchain study group for this very reason.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Yep. Let me drop that in there. Let me just go over this real quick. It's self-paced. It's 2 to 4 months, 30 to 60 hours of effort, and it's $178 for the full program.
Okay.
I don't think you can fail it either. I know some dudes get kept back because they show up late, but hey, what's going on, Dr. Phoenix? What's going on, Christian? Yeah, let me go to Cyberdyne. He has his hand up.
Hey, so I just wanted to say that in reference to the question for the brother who's in finance, these programming languages, these frameworks, they're just nothing but tools, right? Python, these are tools. And so let's just say in Mike's example, Python, right? And for the brother that's in finance, like I think we had spoke about this before. Generally, like you said, you're 50% of the way already because you have an understanding and knowledge of the field of application and practice that you're in. And so there's perhaps maybe a financial calculation that you can do or that you can literally write up, some algorithm that you already know that you can write up based on very specific financial knowledge. And so it's about if you can solve that problem on paper to say, well, here's how we'll calculate this to get this result or to get information for this service for a client or a customer or even for the business, then the programming language actually is the extension of you a billion times over because it can do that multiple times and it can do several other things that you would say, well, here's what we would do to kind of amp that up a little bit. And then the case of the other gentleman who's doing model view controller, and who's also doing SQL, with that stuff, it's SQL. It's really about you're trying to get information from some source in a format that it can be done something with. So if you understand what you're looking for from a source, Mike's database, left join, right join, inner join, outer join, if you know how to get that information, you're already there. You don't have to necessarily, like you said, worry about trying to master it all. It's about what do you want to do and what are you able to do, to contribute. If you want it, you could begin making a market or a niche for yourself with specific knowledge of those languages or frameworks and carve out a special area of blockchain that nobody else is offering. It is saturated in JavaScript, but you can offer something different. And now guess what? You're a player in the game because you offer a service that nobody else does. It's a specialization, and so you've created an opportunity for yourself. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I got offered a role earlier this year as a from New York on Wall Street as a blockchain developer. They were offering 200 grand for the role. No experience.
Damn.
Well, not no experience, but some experience.
This is with like a Morgan Stanley or like a big investment house.
Oh no, this was a startup.
Oh
Fintech.
wow.
So the fintechs are starting to show up, and it's really putting a dent into the legacy dinosaur companies like Bank of America, so on and so forth.
Hey, Mike.
Really? Wow.
Hey, Mike. Was Fintech? Were they a consulting firm?
I forget their name. They're a startup though. They're a startup that focuses on cryptocurrencies in the trading market. So they're just like Circle. Circle is another one that the headquarters is down the street from me. They just got acquired by JP Morgan for a few billion bucks.
Because
So,
I'm still looking for a blockchain development. I'm interviewing a guy actually on Monday for this position. See how he comes through. But I'm looking for a blockchain developer right now, and total pack on that job. It's a permanent placement. It's not a consultant position. It's permanent placement as a blockchain developer, and the total pack of that is $250,000.
Yeah. I met some guys at the last blockchain. Yeah, I met some guys at the last blockchain conference in Boston. Man, guys are making 400 grand, and they're millennials.
That's crazy.
Driving up with Lamborghinis and Ferraris like it's nothing.
Yeah, you can definitely make that kind of bread because a lot of times in these blockchain areas, you're backing up a nice profit center where they're doing Bitcoin and they're doing a lot of different things that the banks are starting to get into. So profit of that center, depending on how profitable it is, your bonus package can get a percentage of what that overall gross of that department did. And it could even go higher, but right now they're estimating right now 250, so it could go to 4, maybe half. If it really goes crazy, you could look at more. You could even be looking at one big one possibly, depending on how well they do. But that's exactly what I am looking for right now. And if I have the rec, I don't want to read the rec off online, but the requisition, you have to have very strong object-oriented program. That's for sure.
Yes.
Strong relational database. Programming. So you have to have a lot of that. There's a lot of things that they want. What does anybody here? Does anybody know anything else about ETL? Does anybody know what that?
Extract, transfer, and load.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I completed with Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
Business intelligence.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that want to move all that, especially healthcare organizations and financial organizations that need to move old records from yesteryear up to new databases that are not directly compatible. So that's a very lucrative market.
But they want people who have this kind of experience as well. So I've really been looking at it. So to me, the person who's in this position is going to have a lot of experience, but they're going to be a technology leader in that company, leading, kind of, merging, doing a lot of tech. They're going to be a tech leader in that company, man. So I would say anyone who certainly is looking to get into this blockchain, I really feel that this is the way to go, and for me, if I can really land this, place somebody here, that's 75 grand for me. That's just for one hit, that's big money. So yeah. I want to land that, as fast as possible. Yep. And before Christmas time, be a good Christmas. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what is going on out here. So this is serious business, guys. So I can tell you right now, from my perspective, on the agency side of the desk, there's big money in this. I do not see an end. I don't see an end to this as this continues to grow.
I was going to ask Mike.
I don't.
Hey, everybody, this is Engineering Cannabis.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on, man?
In terms of the financial side, the guy who's talking about financial, most of the stuff I've seen being used are either SQL, R, and Python. And they use also machine learning algorithms for that too, for predictive analysis, especially the financial sector. So they use, and now that's automated too. Now it's easier for the machine learning part. So most of the time, financial, especially Bank of America, they always look for data scientists with high backgrounds in machine learning and SQL, Python, especially Python and SQL.
Yeah.
So with those, basically you can and the machine learning, you have to have a huge background in statistics. You have to know a lot about statistics.
Yeah. I was at it. Could you mute up for a second? Let me just.
Sure.
Yeah. I was at a new cybersecurity startup here in Boston. I happened to go visit a little while ago, and they had some PhD data scientists there. These guys are these are millennials pulling in 175K like it's nothing, and all they do is they just they do data science work all day long and on their feet like it's nothing. So you guys got to start paying attention to this stuff, man, who are listening to this in the chat and on replay, that this is a big growing market. Big data is big money right now. All that, don't forget about Best Buy and Geek Squad. We're talking big butter-laid stuff up here, man.
Hey,
yeah, for sure.
Hey, Mike.
For sure. I just want to.
Can I throw something? Hello?
Let me go first, and then we'll jump to you.
Very Japanese bank.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, this is for a big Japanese bank. So, okay, hold on a second. Let me move closer to my I'm sorry. I'm just getting my head out of here in a little bit, but yeah, this is for a big Japanese bank, and they're definitely looking. So the Japanese, their banks are getting heavily into this blockchain game. This is a big one. This is a biggie. So I got to figure if they're doing it, all the other banks I'm sure are going to be into it. I don't have a lot of the Rex. I don't have Bank of America or some of these other places that I'm trying to get into currently, but I'm sure they're probably getting into that as well. So from the banking perspective, they're playing this game. So wow. So I know the brokerage houses, Wall Street, everything else like that's going to be ramping up like crazy. So they got a large trade. I'm sure this bank has a very large trading division as well. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And like I said, this is something new. This came up on me about the last 2 months, and they've been having problems finding these people. So I'm actually trying to find out where the groups are. I'm trying to find out not only just kind of where people are getting trained, but where might there be blockchain developers and groups that are hanging out somewhere. And I will travel and fly there, do whatever I need to do to link up with these people just to talk about it, because the money on this really justifies it. So
no company wants to be left behind in terms of like intellectual property and innovation. Everybody wants to get into blockchain. It's the hottest new thing. Everybody wants to get into machine learning and artificial intelligence. They don't want to get left behind. Healthcare organizations having a hard time, looking for machine learning data scientists right now. Data scientists are very scarce. real data scientists, not some dude who writes who does queries on Google and says he cooks people. Now we talking about some real muddle stuff.
No. We're not talking about no clown shit. We're talking about this serious stuff.
The requirements. The requirements for data scientists are big, because if you look at the Indeed and all that, most of the requirements require you to have at least a master's in statistics or a master's in computer science or engineering, because I'm even working as a data scientist in one of the labs. So most of it requires either a master's or in statistics, especially in mathematics. You have to have that knowledge base. So it's difficult, and I've seen a lot of Bank of America and all that trying to fill those kind of positions. It's kind of difficult based on the requirements itself.
Well, good evening to everyone. You know what you guys are talking about, using the brother Nagon's term. This is some real butter laid stuff.
Highly butter laid.
Highly.
Yes, it is.
No. The need for data scientists in healthcare, and specifically, you know, I put up a comment in the chat about the NIH. They are heavily in need of folks who deal with big data scientists. I'm talking about these are careers off the bat paying, starting out minimum 130, 150. You know, and they're looking for, they will hire masters, but they really need folks at the PhD level. So if there are any brothers in the chat that you're an undergrad or something like that, I'll give you a word of advice. Take a stats class if you're ever wanting to go do a PhD program. Just take a general statistics course. If you're not a stats major or math major, just take a general stats course, because if you're wanting to move into that area, they're going to require, if you're applying to a PhD program or even a master's, that you have taken at least a general stats course. This is true of anyone who's in healthcare and you want to move to a graduate level program or doctoral level program. You need at the very minimum a general statistics course, because that is the backbone of data science. And I would just add another thing. There are other programs like Masters in Data Analytics, which is essentially statistics. So those are very important. But you know, healthcare organizations have a very hard time filling folks who have backgrounds in, specifically in data science, machine learning. So these are, you know, essential areas that brothers can really, you know, because there's not a whole lot out here that do this. So these
very true.
Essential areas where brothers can really corner the market.
Yeah, and another thing to bring up is that the Trump administration, as much, you know, we talk about the tangerine tyrant, they've made it difficult for a lot of H-1Bs to get over here. And what that has done for the IT market has opened it up for the next best alternative, which is a lot of educated black males.
Well, see, Mike, I just want to go in on that, because right now I've been looking at all the statistics and data right now on jobs that are open right now. In the IT market, gentlemen, there are close to 1 million open recs in America right now in the IT industry that are unfilled. 1 million fucking jobs.
Yeah,
1 million.
Just to add to what Nagon is saying.
1 million. But I just want to finish up, because I'm gonna let you come, because we know the Surgeon General will come in here and drop something crazy on us. We know that. But at the end of the day, I'm just saying, gentlemen, we got to take a look. I mean, this thing is wide open. What Mike just brought up about the H-1B and knocking a lot of these guys out, and they're not coming over, it's leaving a big vacuum. I believe it's problematic. I'm sorry. I'm going to just call it out as is. It's problematic. A lot of companies are scrambling. And right now, it's a candidate-driven market more than you could imagine. So you have the skill sets, you're writing your tickets in a lot of places. This shit is understaffed. It's understaffed and it's growing. You got to understand what's going on right now. You got to understand what's happening in this industry. And that's why the brothers here that are talking about stuff that they're talking right now, they're so dead on it and so ahead of the curve. It's not even funny. So for those who really want to amp up their careers and really move forward, this is the place to be. And I'm going to say this as well. You don't have to necessarily have a degree. If you have the skill set and you have the experience, they're going to hire you. As long as you can pass the background check. As long as you're not out there, you know, been to the penitentiary twice and that kind of stuff. As long as you ain't been there, you're good.
That's actually an excellent point, because NISB, we were at NISB last week. I showed the pictures of that. There was a brother who did 10 years in the penitentiary, man, and an IT company hired this brother, and paid him handsomely.
So
Wow.
And they're not playing games. You know, they want diversity and inclusion, which is the new buzz term. But they're really, when they talk about diversity and inclusion, they're really going out of their way to look for black men.
If you've got the skills, man, you're going to be able to pay the bills. I just want to bring it up. Dr. Phoenix, go ahead, man. Go handle your business.
No, I was just gonna just to add to what you're saying. I mean, even now you're having colleges and universities scrambling. They're developing a number of different programs for those that are already in healthcare, for example, that for graduate and doctoral level programs to get them into data science and stuff like that, because I mean there's such a huge need in these health systems to get it done for folks who have these backgrounds, and specifically folks not just data science, but folks who've had backgrounds in Python and R, because that tends to get used heavily in biomedical research and stuff like that.
Definitely so, but definitely getting up on those relational database management, systems, web programming, SQL, SQL, as being the leader in that. You guys got to jump on this stuff, man. If you're gonna be programmers, you got to be up on this shit.
4 hours a week.
I'm telling you this. You got to get, and it's not that much time. You can get pretty butter laid quickly if you definitely put your head towards it. You don't have to be. You don't need a master's degree. You don't need it. So I'm just saying, and you understand systems. You really put the time in to learn this. You can, in a couple of years, you can get exceedingly butter laid. And the money's not drying up. There are too many jobs open. They're not going to close these things in the next decade. I'm just telling you, they're not going to do it. That's how big this thing is.
Yeah. Let me go to Josh. He's had his hand up for quite some time, and then we're going to go to Sean. They've had their hands up for 20 minutes.
Yeah, what's up, guys? How y'all doing?
What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, man?
So,
What's good?
I'm good. So I just wanted to speak to the finance guy, or the guy that's in finance or whatever, and point out that these other applications are still being used currently. I know blockchain is the future, but in order to get into it, in my opinion, there's also Microsoft AX, which is Dynamics, which is kind of almost a front end for the SQL databases, as well as the Oracle Hyperion stuff. And that's all financial database front ends that are being used in the industry currently. I've went on multiple interviews, and I have a heavy tech background, but I also worked the position doing financial reporting and managing these servers that these guys use. And I couldn't get in because they looking for people with a financial background, which I don't have. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. You know what I'm saying? Within that conversation I was having about that's still being used. And I understand, blockchain is the future, but it's Microsoft AX Dynamics.
Yep.
That's one of them, as well as Oracle Hyperion, which I've actually managed a server personally that handles all the financial reporting, the ledger, all that stuff is handled within those systems. So just wanted to point it out.
Mm-hmm. Let me go to Sean. He's had his hand up as well.
Hey, appreciate that. Can you hear me, Big Mike?
Yes, sir.
Peace to the panel. Hey, I sent you. I was the one who sent you the email earlier today. I just had a quick question. I got an email that you had sent me from before. It was a list of things that I needed to do to put myself in position to get into the assist admin role. Mm-hmm. And I seen episode 340, and I'm just like, if I add coding, is that like getting out of the way? Like, is that like getting off track? Because I don't want to be all over the place when I'm trying to build this skill set.
Coding is a very broad term, right? It's very, it's kind of vague too when you just throw that. I code, right? What language do you use, right? So we covered this last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, but Python and JavaScript are the top two languages that is in demand for coding. Okay. And JavaScript is the most basic fundamental coding language that you can learn outside of PowerShell and Bash for Linux.
Correct.
So if you can get a grasp on JavaScript and Python, you don't need to be an expert. You just need to be able to write the code necessary for you to do the functions necessary, right? So I would add that, man. I would just crack open a book, one of those not a dummies book. What is that? The Sam's Learn Python in 24 hours or Learn JavaScript in 24 hours. That sort of deal, man. I would just breeze through that, see how difficult it is and see what kind of challenges there are. There's a couple of Udemy courses as well that you can get. I think they're like $2, $3 or something like that, maybe $5. Yeah, I would download Udemy to your phone or to your tablet and kind of go through that as well. There's quite a few things on there that are pretty dope. I still got a lot of content I haven't really gone through on there, probably about 64 hours. But I think adding coding won't hurt. It can only, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. That's always my rule of thumb, man.
Copy that.
So I would learn JavaScript. Go look at JavaScript and look at Python. Those are the two top ones that everyone's looking for.
If you don't mind, can I, Mr. Nagon, are you there?
I think Nagon might have stepped away.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, hey, Mr. Nagon, I tried to get at you through MOT the other day. I was just
something. I meant to get back to you. So did you leave your phone number there?
Yep, I left the phone number there, and I just left the email. I didn't know. Nothing major. So
no. Let's you and I look to link up tomorrow.
Okay, appreciate that.
I'll have time. I'll get a hold of you because MOT and I talked about it. There's another guy I'm supposed to get back a hold of as well. So I've got about 7 people I got to get a hold of at this moment, and I've talked to 3 already. So I'll get a hold of you as well. So
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
I'm on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me answer this question real quick, and then we'll go to Renaissance and Cyberdyne. It says Mike V for this one, Dave Tile. How long are these industries going to be open? You factor in life cycle development. Let's say C++. C++ has been around for almost 30 years. So you give or take a few. Python has been around just as long. It just no one has really used it. There was no application for it before. Now there's a huge explosion because of Android and whatnot.
Yep.
Java has been around for over 20 years. So what I'm saying here is the life cycle of these sort of technologies and these platforms are usually pretty extensive. So give or take 20 to 25 years, that's usually about until they get usurped by something else. That's usually the lifespan of these industries. So you figure into at least 2040, we'll see this.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
You still have COBOL CICS.
There's a lot of companies. You're right about that. There's a lot of companies that for whatever reason, they're too afraid to touch that old machine in that rack. And it has all this critical information on there. They're afraid to unplug it. They're afraid to shut it down. They're afraid to move it. They're afraid to even look at it.
They got huge data they have.
Yep.
They're afraid to move a lot of that. Some of your banks are still dealing with that. It holds so much data, and they have we have other programs and stuff out there that might be able to handle this, but they don't even trust them. They still are rolling with COBOL. How old is COBOL?
Think about it. 30 years.
30 years?
30 plus.
COBOL is 50 years old, man. They be 50. 50 years old when they first started coming up with the first COBOL rack. This bad boy is old. This goes back. This goes back to the 60s. This shit's been around a long time. Unbelievable.
I'm saying from a new technology perspective, it's probably I don't think anyone's developed on COBOL for the last 30 years.
Right. Okay. You're saying developed on COBOL. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but it's still around.
Yeah.
That shit's still on the back end. You got all kind of front end systems playing with this. This stuff is still on the back end. It's crazy.
Yeah. I was at a cloud computing conference here in Boston a few months ago, and they were talking about Partners Healthcare, which is the largest healthcare system in the state, most powerful too. They have over 20 million PHI, personal healthcare records, EMRs, that they have to deal with. And then you take into consideration Epic, which is in Wisconsin, and then you take in Meditech. These companies have mass amounts of data. They need data scientists, they need big data engineers, database developers, they need all of that stuff, and they can't find enough guys to actually fill the roles.
That's exactly correct. And it's and the industries that are in healthcare, insurance,
insurance too,
banking, this shit's still around. It's not gone.
And they can't get rid of healthcare records because they have to hold it by law. So these records staying there for 20 plus years.
Exactly. And even with the brokerage firms and so forth that have in the financial industry, you have to at least keep records on individual clients, at least for 7 years, and some have to go back to 10 years. So they have a lot of stuff they just have on there that they're just holding. And I'm talking about for closed accounts now. We're not even talking about for what's open. So this is what's going down, and it's actually kind of crazy. And quite frankly, this stuff is not going anywhere anytime soon.
No,
that's what's unbelievable about it. Until we have something that can really back it up, that people really want to migrate over to, which is going to be millions of dollars to make those migrations as well. But that's what's going on. That's what's going on. It's unbelievable. I just want to put that in there. I'm sorry.
Let me jump to our Renaissance man. He has his hand up, and then we'll go to Cyberdyne. It's Dr. Phoenix.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. No, I just wanted to follow up on that, on what you talked about earlier. You said you went to a conference. You were saying you got a job offer for about what, like $200,000? You said
no. I was at a conference, but that was separate. But I got a call from New York from a startup, and they were looking for blockchain developers in New York, man. And they were talking 200,000 to 250 grand.
And that was just. And that was just because of your background. Like, do you have like the certification you were showing me of blockchain, something like that? You're saying if you get that certification, you can put yourself, or you need a little bit more IT. You think
you get a blockchain certification, you can write your own meal ticket. Okay. That's the extent of the game. You name the price. They looked at me because I'm affiliated with quite a few CIOs and CTOs and stuff like that on LinkedIn. So that adds to your clout. But I also have a strong background in cybersecurity, in IT. So they look at that and they say, well, we need cybersecurity guy to overlook the application security aspect of blockchain development and stuff of that nature. So they want, if you have some form of structural background in terms of IT, you can be applicable in other areas. So they will, take a gamble and say, well, let's throw this guy into the pot for what we call DevOps, right? DevOps is development operations. It's a methodology used for IT development, software development. So I would get thrown into that DevOps role from a security standpoint, overlooking the cybersecurity aspect of code reviews and things of that nature. So that's why they called me, but that's the extent of it.
Okay. No, I was gonna also say, from what at least with the company I'm with right now, they seem to. I know cybersecurity is in big demand. I figure too, even if the technology transitions, like y'all were discussing, I figure if you get into one of these places and you show your worth, I figure the company will sponsor to keep your skills up, or if they see the market moving, to keep you there. Is that what y'all seen?
What I see is not so much that they'll pay for it, but depending on what the demand is internally, they're willing to kind of shift people around. I've seen guys get shift from cybersecurity into security scientists, basically like data scientists, but from a cybersecurity standpoint. So people get shifted around. They get different roles offered to them depending on how big the company is. A company with less than 1,000 people, you're going to have very little flexibility. Anything more than 1,000, 1,500, you're going to see a lot of flexibility in terms of where you want to go. But the market is so demanding that they're sniping people on LinkedIn. They're saying, let me get this guy and let me offer him, 200,000, see what he thinks. I know guys right now who are making 200,000 like it's nothing.
Crazy.
And they're single, they're childless, and they're tearing up everything that they can come across.
I believe it.
Yeah. Let me go to Cyberdyne, man.
That's true. So, what I wanted to say, and piggyback off what Nagon was saying, in addition to these jobs paying an awesome and very lucrative opportunity, one thing that our listeners also want to be aware of that isn't necessarily related to the software or the learning itself is also these particular environments, especially environments down here on Wall Street, dealing with any type of hedge fund or mutual fund, a hedge fund. These environments, you have to be very mentally prepared, because these environments, generally, if they're paying the big bucks, these are those are very high pressure environments. So where you see the money going and the money is moving and flowing, I think one thing that gets left out of the conversation is that when you go into these environments, these are environments where these people have very large transactions on a continual basis, and these businesses and these clients are linked together very deeply. And so, in a sense, yeah, it's all about the money. And because it's all about the money, the stakes are greater. That's why they want you to come in there with your stuff and with your act together. But make no mistake, these environments, you may have your act together, but you have to, you want to develop a mindset that you can't be an individual who caves to pressure easily. You can't be too overly sensitive going into these types of environments, because when you get there, there's other individuals there who generally be able to mentor you or to even advance you even further in that type of advanced dynamic environment. But make no mistake, they're high pressure, high stakes environments, and you can't go in there if you're squeamish, So I wanted to add.
No, you got to be confident in what you do, man. Everything that you do, you got to be.
Good point. Good point. Very good. Very good point.
Let's go to Dr. Phoenix real quick.
Yeah, to add to what you were saying about Epic, I know a number of folks involved with Epic. They recruit very heavily at the undergrad level, but also too for folks who are already in various healthcare professions and looking to move into that IT data scientist role. Because I know for a fact Epic consultants easily making 150 out the gate.
Yeah,
easy. Yep. And these are 25-year-olds making that kind of money. And so, but to the earlier question about just sort of are these going to be viable career paths in the next decade in healthcare? I don't think we truly understand just the amount of data that these organizations are sitting on. I'm talking about they haven't had people for decades that these organizations have generated so much data. They don't have the people who know what to do with it. And so there are huge openings for folks, for brothers who have backgrounds in data science, who have backgrounds in statistics, that can be involved with tabulating and correlating this data. Brothers who have backgrounds in Python and R. The opportunities are really endless. I mean, I've talked about before about Google is helping the NIH to build out its cloud-based platform. They're going to the cloud. So I mean, I don't see these opportunities ending in the next 10 years, the next 20, even the next 30 years.
No, they're going to be around for at least 50.
I don't see it in it, because remember, in the next 30 years, we all going to be seniors. We all going to be close to retiring.
Yeah. Well, telemedicine is picking up, man. Africa has invested lots and lots of bread into that. So it's not really going to go anywhere anytime soon, man. It just needs more talent than what it has to offer.
Yeah,
That's where,
that's
guys like you all come in, and
and that's the true key. The key is cultivating the folks with the talent who can go out here and build out these networks, manage these networks. I mean, managing healthcare data is big business. You got everything from nursing stuff. I mean, ICUs, I've talked about this before. ICUs generate so much data every single day, every minute of every day. They're generating data that goes into these databases. A lot of it is on site. You have remote, every ICU for the most part is remote monitored. So you have not just the nurses and the physicians within the ICU that are monitoring patients. You have off-site facilities that monitor patients. So you got folks that are all in between that are responsible for the security, for the the capture of the data, all of that. So these careers aren't going anywhere, not anytime soon.
Yeah. I think having a hybrid sort of background, man, of a little bit of health science. I know most community colleges do teach that. You can easily get into one of those either certificate program or even an associate's program for less than 10 grand. Can't beat
Exactly what's happening. Many of your universities now, that was what I was trying to say earlier. You have a number of your universities now that are actually they're developing graduate and doctoral programs for clinicians. So for pharmacists, nurses, physicians, to go back and get a master's or even a PhD in some type of data science related field, and you're able to deal with a lot of data. But because you also have that clinical background, it's a deadly it's a deadly combination. I mean, you can't beat that. And I think I spoke about this before. That Microsoft is working. They hired a couple years ago. They hired a nurse who's the chief nursing officer over at Microsoft, who's helping them to build out their AI that they're looking to try to embed into Epic medical records.
Yep.
And so and probably the biggest thing happening right now that is not even talked about, but probably is going to impact Black people the most out of any group of people in this country, is the All of Us program. I've talked about this briefly, but it's part of the precision medicine initiative that Obama signed with the executive order into law. I think went back in 2012, and basically this program set aside more than, I want to say, $2 billion. It's a few billion that was set aside for this particular program of research. And so now they're rolling it out across the country. So the VA has what they call the Million Veterans Project, and that's the equivalent of the All of Us program for the VA. Now the All of Us program is what every state is. That's what they call it for every state across the states. So, but the point is that you're seeing biobanks getting developed. And so you're having people submitting, blood samples, urine samples. They're putting all kinds of, physiological data, blood pressure, stuff like that. So you're getting data that's generated. So you're going to need folks who have those backgrounds that know what to do with it. So, again, these are, the healthcare biomedical sector is something that, brothers should definitely be looking at.
Yep.
So
thank you for that. Let me go to Richard Victor Dixon.
Yeah, hey Mike. Yeah, I wanted to ask you what you think about this? All right.
Okay.
All right. I plan on messing around with the Bitcoin with the C# library for a while just to get my feet wet on the blockchain. Then I was going to graduate to go on trying to develop on Neo, because that's where a lot more development as far as dealing with C# is, with particular C# is a lot more done. Couldn't I do that and kind of like just network with developers instead of trying to get a blockchain developer cert? Like just networking and showing my work on the blockchain. What you think about that?
Well, that area is one area of a greater area. If you look at Ethereum is the most popular blockchain. out there right now because it's so easy to program for. And so I say that because I think Ethereum is driven by Java.
Solidity.
Yes, well, Solidity I think is built off of Java, right? So if I remember correctly, it might have been built off of JavaScript. I could be wrong. That's a Lionel question, but what's happening here is you got to kind of move with the trends and don't move against it. I understand that C# is used on that other platform, but what's driving the market right now is Ethereum. So I would look more at Ethereum and its wide support base and try to integrate yourself into that rather than to do something more niche factor. I know Hyperledger is really, really stepping up, man, and they got a lot of support. I was at IBM back in September, and I saw some of the stuff that they're doing with blockchain and Watson, man. That shit is phenomenal, man. The amount of the way they're able to leverage those technologies in terms of healthcare, where they can, you can say one word in terms of medicine. You can say hepatitis, and that thing will bring back so much data and correlate it for you in a matter of seconds before you can even sit down. It's amazing some of the stuff that they're doing over at IBM.
All right, what you think about this? All right, Neo, besides Tron, is probably one of the biggest blockchains out of China. And China is embracing blockchain. And everybody is on consensus that Neo is one of the biggest competitors to Ethereum. That's why I was kind of leaning more towards Neo. So I was trying to look at everything that was kind of going on. You get what I'm saying? Around, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you want to be. I think what you're trying to be is a generalist at this point. I would take that EDX program that Lionel took from Berkeley and look at that. Right, that's a really good starting point. It's a good primer, and it gives you exactly what you need. And I think the linuxfoundation.org, if you go to their page on EDX, they have a blockchain class on there that's really supposed to be fundamental. A lot of people have raved about it, so I would look at that as primers, and I wouldn't try to jump too far out with with the C# and that, not because it's a bad move, but because it's not moving at the same pace as everything else. So you don't want to, jump on something that's slower than everything else that's already moving faster than it. So I would look at it from that perspective. So I would definitely go on EDX, go on to Berkeley's page and then do the primer course. Lionel talks about that a lot. He says that it's dope.
I took that. I'm in a blockchain study group.
Okay.
I took both of them courses.
Oh, and you passed all of them?
I didn't pass the second one because I ran out of time. Well, you got the upgrade and pay for it. But instead of paying for it, I just went and bought the book. I got the Mastering Bitcoin book.
Okay.
That's pretty it's pretty in depth. It's actually the #1 book they recommend to read. And it's pretty good so far. So
okay. Yeah,
I think what Mike is speaking to is more so ground yourself, don't and I think he expounded eloquently on the niche thing. Niche is high risk, high reward, but if you're not grounded, you might want to. A lot of people have to be very careful about getting into the next latest and greatest bleeding edge or cutting edge thing, because it pays a lot. It's very highly visible. And it's exciting and it's dynamic. But, the big rule is if you're not grounded so that you take fundamental concepts, fundamental, practices over into that, you're not going to be very stable and you're not going to be able to really maximize yourself while you're on that bleeding edge or cutting edge opportunity. And there are people there who are, who've taken the time to ground themselves. So now while they're at that cutting edge, bleeding edge opportunity, they have a lot more flexibility in that opportunity than most other people would, because they haven't taken the time to ground themselves. So
yeah, you have to see what the market is demanding. If you go on Indeed, and just look up, blockchain or cryptocurrencies, you'll see that Ethereum is in high demand. Everybody who knows Ethereum, anybody who knows Ethereum is in high demand. And anybody who
you definitely
understands
right about that.
yeah. That's why I said, don't get yourself too far out there in the weeds, man, where you're kind of playing around by yourself and nobody else knows what you're doing, because that may not be marketable. It might be nice for like water cooler conversations or something like that, man. But after that, man, you may not get any return on your investment from that. So, yeah. So I would stick with the mainstream. Try not to go too far out. Blockchain is a mile wide and an inch deep. So it does get pretty far out there if you're not paying attention. You get lost out there. So.
Yeah, it's a lot to it. The Twitter crypto politics are true.
Yep. Yep. Somebody else had their hand up. Who had their hand up?
Well, I think that was me.
Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
In terms of with Dr. Phoenix, I agree with the medical side, because there are a lot of not only jobs, but a lot of startup and entrepreneurship arising from not only blockchain, but from also machine learning. Currently, there was this YouTube channel, Juma Tech. His brother was a machine learning expert. He sold his company for $60 million recently. And he started like 2 to 3 years ago. And it was dedicated to machine learning for the real estate. So in terms of, I always believe that in terms of data science and all that, it also leads into entrepreneurship, especially, as I said, I'm looking into the cannabis space with the tech side. And with Dr. Phoenix, when he talked about using data, I'm trying to even use that same aspects in data science for potency in terms of cannabis. So there isn't any potency standard for that now. So right now I'm looking at research on that. So there's a lot of opportunities in terms of entrepreneurship for machine learning and blockchain. And a lot of startups are already started around these technologies. So it's not a limited technology for only a job, but also for a startup itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Cloud, blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, 5G, all of these, and autonomous vehicles too. All of these things play into what's driving the market between now and 2025. So we want to make sure we solidify ourselves in this market so that we're going to have a long, long tenure in these areas. Because if you get ahead of it, whoever's ahead of it, will be the ones to drive it.
And I also agree with you about the niching, because right now I'm involved in a lot of machine learning, and I'm not involved in blockchain. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to do data, if you want to do software development, you want to do all that. It just depends on what you want to do. Like I focus on machine learning and database and data science. I might learn blockchain later as it goes along, but right now I still just focus on machine learning and basically deriving more models, mathematical models for different data sets. And that's what I'm good at right now. But in terms of blockchain, I don't have that much experience in it. So it depends on what you fall in. Just go in, learn as much as you want to in that area. And then once you're good at it, you can then move to another area.
Yeah, it's all about literacy, man. If you can mute yourself real quick. It's all about literacy, because you don't have to be an expert on everything. You need to just be literate. You need to know what it is, why it's doing it, and how to remediate it. So those are the three things you need to really focus on. The literacy aspect, I can't stress enough, man, because sometimes I would talk to some guys at the barbershop. They have absolutely no clue of what I'm talking about. They have an iPhone. They just know how to, look at Pornhub and stuff, but that's the extent of their knowledge of the device. Even though they say, yeah, I know about technology. I'm a nerd. Yeah, you're a nerd to a certain extent, man. but you don't really understand what's going on, what's driving it, the platform itself, whether it's iPhone or Android. So yeah, you brag to me that you got the new Samsung Galaxy Note, but you don't even know how it works. You don't even know how to make it work. Telling me that you got the new shiny joint is not. I'm not impressed by that because I know better.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Go ahead, Dr. Phoenix.
Yeah. I was just gonna add to what both you and Engineering Canada are saying about the niche. I mean, if you're in the healthcare, biomedical pharmacy, biomedical research pharmacy, whatever. I mean, that's pretty much how it goes. You specialize in something. You're a generalist, then you specialize in something. For me, my major backgrounds of focus tends to be in areas of genetics. So, and because again, genetics is one of these areas that has been exploding.
You said eugenics or genetics?
Yes. Now, and I say that I say that because right now we're seeing that genetics is rewriting everything in healthcare, from the way that physicians function to the way that nurses function. It is and pharmacists, because it is rewriting the way everything is the way you treat a person, the way you how what kinds of meds or treatments or whatever someone gets. That genetics is completely rewriting that. I heard, and someone told me at a conference about a year or so ago, said like, yeah, medicine will actually be a specialization within genetics. So that's how big this is getting. And so, specializing in something is key. It's key pretty much in every area, but certainly for those that are involved in the fields of biomedical research, pharmacy, medicine, nursing, whatever, that is the key. Is specializing. Yes, you need a general skill set, but you're gonna eventually at some point will want to specialize, because that's where the market is at. And again, for brothers who have backgrounds and stuff in IT or data science and machine learning and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I mean, pretty much the sky is the limit. I don't know how many other ways I can say it, because understand something. You're only hearing these conversations at the Black Brain Trust. You're not hearing this anywhere else. And brothers need to understand that. This is real. This is you got a number of brothers on this panel from different areas that are sitting here telling you all, this is where it's at in the future, and it ain't going nowhere. This is not going anywhere.
And now is the perfect time to get in, while they deny a lot of these H-1B visas from coming in the country and taking those opportunities away from you, because they're looking for Black men. I was just at the NISB conference. That was the exact discussion that they were having: diversity and inclusion. How do we get more brothers into these industries? The biggest problem that I find is that it's about literacy. Guys either they know or they don't know.
It truly is, because even just up until a year ago, I was visiting some of the top programs in the country for nursing and genetics, and there were literally, they were looking hand over fist for brothers. They're looking for brothers, especially to get brothers to that doctoral level. They were looking for them. If you were willing to put in the work, they were really heavily recruiting. I've said this before. Everyone doesn't have to be a physician or whatever. If you want to do nursing, it's a great career. You can get into it. Well, won't cost you as much to become a nurse as it will to become a physician. But we're talking great careers with great trajectories, great long-term prospects, and great income. Every nurse I know makes no less than 6 figures. And so, these are great areas, and things are just exploding, and it's redefining how medicine is delivered, how healthcare is conducted. It's data science, machine learning, genetics is redefining everything in the healthcare world.
Yep. And he's in Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. That's like the Minnesota minus the weird.
Yeah, like I said, I know a bunch of folks who've gone through Epic because this they call it the mothership here. I know a bunch of folks who've done Epic. I'm talking about obviously people in their 20s, man. They graduated, they did internships at Epic. In fact, there was a major health fair at my alma mater, and you had Epic there recruiting everybody from software engineers all the way on up. They were recruiting interns all over the place. In fact, I might make some copies and put it in an email to send it to you because they were looking heavily, especially for brothers who had backgrounds in computer science.
They're getting so desperate now, in terms of like diversity, man. They're going to get brothers out of jail. If you came out of jail, got a clean record, you done wrapped up parole, there's companies out there willing to sponsor.
Yeah, you have a complete brain drain going on, and I can't stress this enough, brothers. There really is a brain drain. You have these various organizations that are starving for talent. Again, those H-1B visas are, they've been more difficult to come by because for years, this was your basic supply of, computer scientists and engineers, and certainly at least a quarter of your physician staff were these H-1B folks. So this stuff is, this stuff is drying up. So these are prime opportunities for brothers. Prime opportunities.
Who got their hand up? Cyberdon has his hand up.
Hey, are you guys favorable to Byron Allen? Are we favorable to him here on the network?
I like Byron Allen. In fact, I listened to a replay right before I jumped in on this of a broadcast King Sigma did earlier about Byron Allen. I think he put it into very good context about why his Supreme Court case is very important. Well, I should say, I think he's at the Ninth Circuit Court. So right now, but he put it into a very good context as to why this is important, specifically why it's important to brothers.
The reason I asked that, I wanted to ask you guys and Mike. I know he uses him in the montage on the channel. I just ran into a interview he did with the Breakfast Club just what I want to say on the 30th.
Yep.
And my gosh, I wanted to advertise that, or if that was cool to advertise that. I listened to it, and I'm actually gonna go back and listen to it tonight, man. But that interview, Byron Allen, he dropped so many jewels, and one of the questions that they asked him is that they asked him, well, how did he get to where he was and buying the Weather Channel? And Byron dropped such a jewel that I've never heard before. He literally went into detail about how some of the people in the industry were blackballing him. And he, one of the biggest things that he says, which I see what we're doing here, and the brothers are asking these questions, is put yourself in position to succeed, and don't let yourself be, like he said, like you might say, Mike, don't get caught with your pants down, or don't be caught in the position to fail. And he went in and mentioned, man, that he said making the money is easy, but it's about putting yourself in position. And just how he talked and gave just an unlocked gem about he met some guy, and the guy was a golfing partner with a lot of the people that Byron Allen was making these phone calls to, trying to get into the business or trying to, network and stretch himself out. And guys would laugh and say, man, this Byron Allen dude keeps calling me, or this, Mike V guy keeps calling me, and we're not going to return his calls or do business with him because he's a black man. And he had made that one connection, ended up going to like a house party out here in New Jersey at the time. And that guy basically had those guys who were hanging up, not returning Byron's calls. And he was pulling them over and says, hey, you want to renew that contract with Disney? You want to renew that contract with AT&T still? And the guy was like, oh, well, yeah, of course I do. He says, okay, well, if you want to do that, then you need to start answering Byron's calls. And from that point, he just took off. But, I think the point is that putting yourself in position to win, man, by taking these Udemy courses. Mike's giving out the information for Coursera and edX. Dr. Phoenix is telling you that there is these multiple opportunities in, the various aspects of the medical industry. And ultimately, a lot of our listeners and panelists and people have skill sets where all we have to do is just really be ready to, change shoes, put on a different pair of shoes and walk in them, is putting yourself in position. So I just wanted to highlight that and tell guys to check out that Breakfast Club interview with the latest with Byron Allen. It's good for the soul, and I'm gonna check it out some more. It's awesome. So
yeah, something that was told to me a few years ago by someone is that he said if you get ready, if you stay ready, you don't have to worry about getting ready. And so again, I mean, this is about brothers understanding where are the trends, where are the career trends, where's the money moving. Right now the money is moving in the tech space, the money is moving in the healthcare space, and really there's the convergence of the two. I mean, we've talked, Mike has read off a number of articles talking about, how they're using machine learning to diagnose various, disorders. I mean, this is where we're at now. So, I mean, again, you got, brothers understanding where these trends are at and learning how to hedge your bets. And so, I mean, this is where the rubber truly meets the road. There's a lot of other detritus and a lot of other stuff that goes on in this Black YouTube space, but when it comes to giving out real information, stuff that's going to change your life and put you in a better position, is only happening here.
Let's go to Renaissance. Man, he got his hand up. Renaissance, man.
Oh, sorry. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry, I was on mute. Now I just want to reinforce what Dr. Phoenix was talking about, the nursing field. My aunt is a nurse manager at a major hospital in the Southeast. And she would always tell me about, staffing and trying to keep nurses. And she was saying, like if you come in as an entry level, they'll pay you, I want to say like $5, $10 more if like you're willing to work night shift. It's the oldest profession, I believe, in America right now, as far as people who are nearing retirement. I remember she did travel nursing in California, and they would pay for her like a car, a place to live, and then pay her, I can't even remember how much, like $90, $100 an hour or something like that, do travel nursing. And she even says that they can't even get people to be like nurse practitioners because it doesn't even make sense financially. Because she was saying, if you want to work your 4 days, 12-hour shifts and just, stay at that, or you can go pick up an extra couple days, get the overtime, which is, time and a half, I believe. She was like, by the time you do that, it doesn't even make sense to be a nurse practitioner. And then on top of that, she's making money teaching as well, because they don't have enough teachers to even turn out the nurses. So I just want to put that out there and sort of reinforce what he was saying, because I hear it all the time.
Yeah, Dr. Phoenix can jump back in on that.
Yeah, so I mean, I completely agree with everything he said. Now, as it pertains to NPs, that's very much has been changing over the past few years. I am regularly seeing salary offers for NPs in 150, 200 range. I know in the New York area, if you're willing to go to New York, I'm regularly seeing $200,000 plus salaries for NPs. If you're 1099 contracted for as an NP, for example, regularly seen, depending on what your specialty is, because this is where the niche really comes into play as an NP, as any healthcare provider, especially like if you're emergency NP, I'm regularly seeing folks getting $120 an hour more, even more. If you're psych NP, I know psych can be a little dicey. Regularly seeing folks coming out of school minimum 130 all the way up to 200 grand plus coming out of school. But psych is a dicey area. I'm not too fond on that. If you're, I see hospitalist positions, they're easily paying you 120, 130, 150 out the gate. So it just kind of all depends on what it is and what your particular skill set is. However, it is true. One of the folks that I speak with on a regular, she's a ICU nurse, and she does travel contracts in California. And in fact, she's in California right now. And so I know for a fact out there in California, they're just paying insane amounts for travel nurses. In general, California tends to have some of the most contracts that they offer to nurses because they're just such a huge need for them out there. And so yeah, I mean, it's very lucrative. I mean, they, in fact, in the nursing field, at least some of the numbers that I've seen over the last year or so, you have roughly about 40 to 50% of all new nurses who actually leave the profession within their first year, which is kind of interesting because then that means that there's always a natural need for nurses.
Why is the turnover so high?
Because it's rough. It's hard, man. The job, I think what a lot of folks don't understand, people think, oh yeah, I just go to nursing school and become a nurse. But it is rough, dude. Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, you deal with a lot of stuff. I mean, and I think this is true of anybody in healthcare, especially if you're a physician or a nurse, you're not just somebody's clinician, man. Depending on what kind of setting you're in, man, you're gonna be a social worker. You might even be a damn psychologist. I mean, it's crazy. The hours are long. You work really long hours, especially if you're in the ICU. I mean, you work really long hours. I mean, everyone that I've ever known that worked in the ICU worked minimum 50 hours a week. I mean, that's just how it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, go ahead. What's that, brother?
No, I was also going to add too. I don't know if you see any of this. She was telling me what sometimes happens if you got a husband, because most of the nurses are women. If you got a husband that's got a good job, she was saying a lot of these nurses, because you said the crazy hours, they'll want to be able to be with their kids. So what they'll do is they'll go work for the school, or they'll go work for like an office or something, like a private office, so they can have the better hours. Like I said, if they have that financial situation, that's what she said. She sees a lot of turnover too, or people will move to another hospital.
Yeah, that's certainly true, because if you go work for school nursing doesn't really pay that much. I mean, at best maybe 70, 80 at best. Doesn't really pay a lot. I mean,
school nursing being big university.
I mean, they do have nurses there, but they're NPs. They hire NPs to run the clinics for students and faculty. So they do have all your universities have some health clinic on there, usually ran and staffed by NPs and RN. But as a whole, yeah, I mean, if depending on what kind of office you're in and depending on what that particular specialty is in the office, you can make a pretty good amount of money. If you're like in wound care, maybe vascular or something like that, you can make some pretty solid money in the office. But typically the best salaries are going to always be typically inpatient type stuff, like ICU, ER positions. That's typically what pays the most, and that's where everybody runs to. Because like I said before, I was fortunate enough because when I was an undergrad, I managed to get into an ICU internship. I did like an 8-month internship in the ICU, and even then, afterwards, it was still rough. So, that's so. I mean, the turnover is pretty high for a number of reasons, but I would mostly chalk it up to the fact that the hours are long, especially you're 22, 24, and you're making a decent amount of money, but you don't kind of have a whole lot of time to do it. To do anything with it. So
yeah, let me just read this article real quick. Where am I at? I know there's been some questions about coding and stuff like that, but let me just touch on this real quick. All right, this one is from opensource.com. 5 reasons why I love Python. There are a few of my favorite things about Python. I've been using Python since it was a little known language in 1998. It was a time when Perl was quite popular. in the open source world, but I believe in Python from the moment I found it. My parents like to remind me that I used to say things like Python is going to be a big deal and I'll be able to find a job using it one day. It took a while, but my predictions came true. So reason number 5, Python reads like executable pseudocode. Pseudocode is the concept of writing out programming logic without it following the exact syntax and grammar of a specific language. I have stopped writing much pseudocode since becoming a Python programmer because its actual design meets my needs. Python can be easy to read even if you don't know the language well, and that is very much my design. It is reasonably famous for whitespace requirements for code to be able to run. Whitespace is necessary for any language. It allows us to see each of the words in the sentence as distinct. Most languages have suggestions or best practices around whitespace usage, but Python takes a bold step by requiring standardization. For me, that makes it incredibly straightforward to read through code and see exactly what it's doing. So this is basically code that's he has written as an example. I'm not going to get too much into that. All right, reason number 4, Python has powerful primitives. In programming language design, a primitive is the simplest available element. The fact that Python is easy to read does not mean it is not a powerful language, and that stems from its use of primitives. My favorite example of what makes Python both easy to use and advanced is its concept of generators. Imagine you have a simple binary tree structure with value left and right. You want to easily iterate over it in order. You usually are looking for small elements in order to exit as soon as the right value is found. That sounds simple so far. However, there are many kinds of algorithms to make a decision on the element. Other languages would have you write a visitor where you invert control by putting your quote, is this the right element in a function and call it via function pointers. You can do this in Python, but you don't have to. Reason number 3, the Python standard library. Python has a great standard library with many hidden gems I did not know about until I took the time to walk through the list of all available functions, constants, types, and much more. One of my personal favorites is the itertools module, which is listed under the function programming languages. Yes, Python supports functional programming. It is great for playing jokes on your tech interviewer, for example, with this nifty little solution to the classic FizzBuzz interview question. I'm not going to get too much into that because if you don't know Python, it's not going to matter to you. Reason number 2, the Python ecosystem is massive. For everything that is not the standard library, there is an enormous ecosystem to support the new Pythonista, from exciting packages to text editors, editor plugins specifically for the language. With around 200,000 projects hosted on PyPy and growing, there is something for everyone. Data science, async frameworks, web frameworks, or just tools to make remote automation easier. So he's talking about leveraging Python in data science. Dr. Phoenix spoke about this earlier, using Python and R in data science research and queries, plus machine learning. The same thing for remote automation. The ability to leverage Python to automate functions is actually very popular in the tech world, or in the IT world, I should say. And the number 1 here is the Python community is special. The Python community is amazing. It was one of the first to adopt a code of conduct, first of the Python Software Foundation, and then for PyCon. There is a real commitment to diversity and inclusion. Blog posts and conference talks on this theme are frequent, thoughtful, and well read by Python community members. While the community is global, there is a lot of great activity in the local community as well. Local Python meetups are a great place to meet wonderful people who are smart, experienced, and eager to help. A lot of meetups will explicitly have time set aside for experienced people to help newcomers who want to learn a new concept or to get past an issue with their code. My local community took the time to support me as I began my Python journey, and I am privileged to continue to give back to new developers. So that's the extent of this as to why he likes Python. And I kind of echo some of his sentiments. I'm not a Python person myself. I don't write code at the moment. At least not in Python. I do PowerShell a little bit. But the point of the matter here is that Python is a very, very popular language for some of the stuff that we've talked about, data science, even automation. Automation is very popular with Python. So, if you're asking about what coding languages should you learn, Python is at the top of the list of almost every article that we have read. I would also throw in learn Bash too, born again shell for Linux. Josh talks about Linux on his channel a lot, so he's in Linux aficionado, if I remember correctly. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just gonna throw it out there and add to what you said. Everything you said was correct, and that article is spot on. But I just wanted to point out on the automation piece. I know for a fact my company and many other companies that are in government contracts are going towards the automation via Python, and that's spinning up servers on the fly for whatever is needed for the government. You can they've been developing stuff like this, for a while now using Python, and you can spin up a server in like 30 minutes or so with all the requirements that you need, and it's all Python in the background that's actually spinning up the server for you, and you just go through a lot of the people that have like a front end or whatever. You select whatever settings you like. If this is a SQL server that you're trying to spin up, you go through and select all your criteria, how much RAM, how much hard drive space, everything. That's all tied into automation. So Python is real, is taking over. It's no more sitting at a computer, sitting there configuring the server based on whatever your requirements are. It's a push of a button now. So and that's all Python. So that's all I wanted to
add. Renaissance Man got his hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I was talking to one of the engineers I work with at work. She was telling me that she thought that there was sort of a natural progression of languages to learn. I want to say she said you should learn C before you learn Python. I don't know if y'all agree with that or if even that makes sense.
Well, the thing about learning a language, you have to know intro to computer science first, CS 101. That gives you the fundamentals before you even learn C. The reason why they talk about learning C first is because that's one of the foundational languages, but it's not exactly necessary to learn C if you want to learn Python. You can take a CS 101 class very briefly and jump right into Python. I know people who don't know anything about coding and who did not know anything about coding, spun up Python in a matter of 6 months. They were pretty efficient at it. So it's just a matter of perspective. When people say, you should learn C before you learn C++, you should learn C++ before you learn Python. These are two distinctively different languages. I think what they're trying to say is that you should learn the founding principles first. That may have been true 20 years ago, but now with all these online boot camps and stuff like that, and the autocorrection, like in Python, like we were just reading about, a lot of those founding principles, man, are a little bit dated, because it's not as robust as some of these new languages. Google's Go Go language, and Facebook has a language as well. I forget the name of it. There's so many different new languages that have come up that surround JavaScript and Python and stuff like that. It's one of those things where that may have been true back in the 2000s or the late 90s, but now you can learn this stuff in 4 months and it won't even matter.
Okay, no, that makes sense. She's a little bit older. Like she probably graduated school back in probably like the 90s, mid 90s. So I see where you're coming from.
Go ahead, Engineer Canvas.
I agree with Mike. In terms of Python, especially in data science, that's the bread and butter, especially in data science, especially with the use of TensorFlow and Scikit, where you can get linear regression equations and just put in your model. So that's the bread and butter in Python. And it's easy to learn because I know a lot of PhD students who just did statistics but didn't have any background in coding, and they just picked up Python in 3 months and they became a very reliable data scientist because they knew the background of statistics and application. And the coding with Python was quick and easy to learn. And they didn't know how to code that much. So Python is basically an easy language to learn, and it's the bread and butter for any data scientist. Python, R, and SQL. So that's basically, Python is one of the best languages even I use every day.
Let me go to Ray Alexander's question in the chat. He says, could you also discuss some workable strategies on how Black men can navigate the hurdles to access high-paying information technology careers in the age of H-1B visas and mass immigration from India? We discussed this a couple of times before on different live streams, but I'll kind of reiterate some of the stuff that we said before. Actually, I think we discussed it 2 weeks ago, but I've kind of reiterated here, and then everybody else can jump in on this. The way you navigate this, man, always make sure that you got your ducks in a row. You know, we talk about certifications a lot on here because what certifications do is they demonstrate your literacy of a certain technology or a certain methodology. That being said, as I said before, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. I know some people come on here and they'll argue against me and say, you know, well, certifications aren't everything. Well, I think that certifications are better than nothing. So get your certs. They're gonna tell everyone else what you know and what they need to know about you. Also take interest in some of these vertical technologies that are coming out, these emerging technologies that are coming out, IoT, blockchain, cloud computing, data science, so on and so forth, digital health and things of that nature. Because what's happening here is, and this has been my experience in undergrad, a lot of these guys, a lot of Black men, BMs, hear these recruiters and see these commercials, and what they say is, well, you can make $100,000 just doing this, this, and this. And they see the $100,000, but they don't see the application behind it. So they don't have a real interest in the technology. They just have an interest in the salary. And if you don't put in enough work and enough time on it, then what's going to happen is you're never going to advance because you really don't care too much about the technology. And that's how some of these foreigners come here and they dominate all over you or over BMs because guys are not putting in enough work and they're not putting enough study time to actually be literate on what they're supposed to be into. So if you want to get around or compete in these areas, you need to put in enough time where you have such a proficient knowledge of this that if anybody asks you a question, whether you're in an interview or just in passing, you can recite this stuff like it's nothing, like it's the gospel. And what that's going to do is going to build your confidence up. And people who really know what they're talking about are really confident. And so they're believable in what they're, in their knowledge and what they're saying about the said technology. So those are my pieces of advice. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. I think you put it succinctly, Mike, very well. The biggest thing also I would say in addition to that is practice, practice, practice at home. We mentioned the subject of virtual machines, where at the push of a button you can spin up your own environment. That's actually what I'm doing here in my house. I have a unused room that I'm going to use for like a mini data center. So I'm putting up things on the wall and just getting ready to hook everything up. But you have the ability to turn your home, that second room or that basement or that attic room, into your own personal mini little data center and library. And you have the ability now to put this stuff on a computer and practice it and blow it up and crash it and build it up again and burn it down and build it up again and follow along with some of those YouTube tutorials and examples. Read along with some of the things that you find on Google. Go through the books, and just get that basic foundation. And so once you step into the situation where it calls for you to put forth whatever knowledge you have, as the great Michael Jordan would say, and this is my philosophy that I copy from him, and Dr. Phoenix basically said it today. When you practice, come game time, come interview time, come show me what you can do time, you're not afraid. Mike said that you're confident, so you've practiced so much that even if you don't give, the actual right answer, you're able to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about, and your confidence is going to exude through your expression. People are going to know if you know what the stuff is and if you don't know what the stuff is, versus knowing exactly what the right answer to the question is, if unless you're required to know a specific answer to to a specific question. And I would say the other part of that would be to kind of venture out. I know in this day and age people like to take shortcuts, but in some circumstances, that goes back to our earlier premises that get the foundational knowledge, get the basic building blocks, and start from there. Once you have that foundation, you just build on top of that. Build something at home. And then it could be anything. It doesn't have to be this elaborate, scientific, whatever. Just start at home, build something, make something, and then move on to something else. And then once you've moved on to something else, come up with something on your own if you're able to think of something, and use everything that you learned before to build out something. And if it works, then you're ready, and your confidence right then and right there, it's going to spike up to the top of the mountain, so.
Hey, this is Maddox.
What's going on, Christian?
What's up, dude? Yeah, I lab all the time. I got 2 virtual servers now. Everything I do for my job, I spin it up. I do it at home first, and I know everything to do to make it work. I've broken environments to be rolled out for clients probably like 30 or so times at home. I've taken notes of like, don't do this, and I come up with a plan to figure out what I need to do to get to work at the job. If you're going to do IT work, you're going to have to like practice all the time. So you might as well go ahead and get your lab and everything set up. And I just wanted to say real quick, I joined the mentorship. I had Mike take a look at my resume, looked at a couple of classes. I've done Coursera and edX, add a couple of their little certs and degrees on there on my LinkedIn account, and I've gotten a lot of job offers. I want to say like this last quarter alone, I probably got like 8 really good job offers. I just want to put that out there.
Good for you, man. Have you jumped into any certifications lately, like Azure or anything like that?
You sent us an email for, what was it? AWS, Azure. It was for Cloud Gurus and Linux Academy. And a couple of kids I mentor on the side, we went ahead and started doing that. We're thinking about going ahead and getting our AWS knocked out. And if my job goes ahead and approves it on the certification list, I might get Azure.
Cool. I think Azure is, I think they had a deal for, it might've been for October. Microsoft Search was free, I think, for like 1 day or something like that. I think I had posted it on the community page.
I've been so busy. I've been working on that blockchain because like Richard, I couldn't afford it the last time to actually get the credit for it. So they brought the class back, and I'm doing that class now, and like 4 cybersecurity classes on Coursera. So I just haven't had time to really dig into everything like I need to.
Yeah, dope, man, dope. We haven't seen you on the panel in a while, so.
Been busy. I've been taking your advice, been using it. And like I said, I got a bunch of job offers, and at my job, dude, my pay raise has been up $7K this quarter alone.
Cool.
Yeah, because I went in there and said, oh yeah, we talked about this and this in the group I'm in. And they asked me a couple of questions, and I know what I'm talking about because I listened to it on the Black Brain Trust. I talk about it at work. They move me up, hit me up. How should we handle this? And I got paid. I'm up for another raise Monday. I got to talk to one of the vice presidents.
Sound like you might be the vice president.
Might be away from that, but I'm doing okay.
That's good to hear, man. That's good to hear because it lets other people know that this is what, this is what goes down on this channel. Let's go to Josh.
Hey, so I had forgot to ask something. Matt has kind of made me think about it. But get you a GitHub. So if you plan on developing anything in Python, that's a great place to develop and then and get help as well. Like people can actually collaborate. People can collaborate with you on whatever you're trying to build or whatever. I mean, it could be anything open source. You can put the licensing in there on how you want whatever you're building used. And then also you can link that to your LinkedIn profile. And so if he's got, like, if you're in an interview and people want to see something that you built, that you understand how to write this code, and it doesn't have to be Python. It could be Bash, PowerShell, whatever you want to put up there, you can put it up there. And it's like your LinkedIn repository, so to speak, on your work that you've done. Like Kevin Samuels say, show your work. That's your work. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to add that as well.
Okay. Cool. I think we covered everything for tonight, man. Also, Epic is actually hiring. Epic is the medical health record company out in Wisconsin. So I saw they posted some remote jobs on there. I would definitely take a gander at what they're offering over there. From what I've heard is positive stuff. I met some people from Epic back in the summer who worked there and at a conference, and they they talk greatly about it. So I would definitely take a look at Epic. They seem to be BM friendly.
They are. They really are. They are considered the gold standard in electronic medical records. I mean, it costs tons of money for companies to implement for healthcare organizations to implement Epic, but they are considered the gold standard in the EMR space. and you know they are pretty. Pretty much every black person I've known, and black males specifically I've known, that's worked for there. They, you know, all had very good responses to them. So can't stress it enough, man.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if you've not already done so. Share the video if possible. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. If you want IT mentorship, you're trying to get into IT, we can actually help you out with that through mentorship. If you're trying to go from one IT position to another, we have IT coaching available. Myself, Nagone, Cyberdin, as well as a couple of others that are on the panel that are not on the panel right now, including Gabe. He can actually help you out as well. And if you want your resume looked at and you want salary negotiation advice, talk to Nagone. He does offer that as well. Also, you can shoot your resume my way as well, and I can kind of give you some pointers on to how to beef up your resume. That being said, shalom to everyone. Have a good weekend.